Aloha! Welcome back to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Gina Ryan, and I'm so happy to be with you again today as we consider the many ways to bring your mind and body back to its natural peace and calm. In today's episode, I'm talking about let time pass, and this is part 2. How to let time pass the Claire Weeks way. So again, Claire Weeks was a pioneer in her treatment of anxiety disorders, and her highly effective approach centered around face, accept, float, and let time pass. And that's what we're down to today, letting time pass. And this method is a part of her strategy to help you face and manage anxiety. So the practical way, this is sometimes hard. Like, what do I do? Okay, I understand it, but now what do I do? So we want to make sure that you understand the real nature of anxiety and get down into your body, not just your intellect, that what is happening is a normal response. So that's going to be recognizing the symptoms and sensations when they occur. When you feel anxious, remind yourself that the symptoms, whether they're your racing heart, sweating, rapid breathing, twitching, muscle tension, you know the list. I am not going to give the whole laundry list here. This is all part of the body's normal fight or flight response to stress. You must understand that there is not something wrong. So you could say to yourself, this is my body's way of protecting me. This is a normal reaction. Now, you may also know that it's a little bit of a overreaction, which people who are anxious tend to have, because we're so tightly wound at that point when we are anxious that when that spring goes off, it's a big jump, like it's a big reaction. That all goes away eventually. Everything won't always be like that. So practice saying that to yourself. This is my body's way of protecting me. My mind and body are thinking there is something wrong. Even if that is not a conscious thought, something that you are thinking or an old subconscious bubble is bubbling up. We don't need to understand where it comes from. All we need to do is say, I am safe right now. My feet are on the ground. I'm breathing. I'm in a perfectly normal setting. This is my body's way of protecting me from something you are thinking unconsciously or something you may already be in an anxiety cycle, an anxious cycle, and this is a normal reaction that you have those sensations. You may have been worried about something. That's normal. We do that in life. But while you're in the thick of it, your reactions are still going to be big, even though you're understanding intellectually that that doesn't have to be that way. Your body hasn't picked that up yet. This is where letting time pass comes in. This is going to take time. So while you're waiting, remind yourself, this is just a normal reaction to my body protecting me. You also want to remember that the symptoms that are happening are benign. So you can reframe your thoughts. When you experience anxiety symptoms, remind yourself that while they are uncomfortable, they are not harmful. And I know you've heard me say this 100 times, but at some point, it's going to hit you in a way that you're going to feel it in your body. Oh, this really is not harmful. I really am okay. So some of the ways you can get there is to keep a journal and write down your symptoms and then write an affirmation next to them. Like, this is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. You may have to tell yourself this over and over again, but wait, why not? because the way you got into anxiety was telling yourself the same thing over and over and over again, but it was just a negative thought. It was just a negative affirmation. You were just telling yourself, oh my God, this, or oh, here we go again with that. You were reacting in the negative, and it came unconsciously. You weren't doing it to make yourself ill. It did make you anxious and take you down the wormhole, but you didn't do it on purpose. But now you have an awareness, so you can do the opposite, and you can take yourself out of that wormhole step by step. Write it down. This is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. If you have twitching next to your eye and you've had every test known to mankind in the medical field, but your mind is still telling you, uh-oh, this is a problem, you write it down in your journal and write next to it, this is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. So you want to stay educated on what's going on. If you're listening to this show, I know you're already reading books, listening to podcasts, going on YouTube, wherever. You are watching videos. You're already in the cycle of education about the physiological aspects of anxiety. And you already understand what is happening to your body. And if you are new to this and you are here just recently tuning in here, go and learn. Learn about what is happening to your body. Listen to old shows here and learn what is happening to your body and how you can get that down into your heart that you are okay. The mind will take it off to all kinds of negative places, big, horrible health issues. No, you just want to bring it right back again and remember, this is uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. But education is important because if you don't understand what's happening, you are just lost, and the mind will take that and take you down every negative alley that it can find. So spend 5 or 10 minutes each day learning about anxiety so that you can demystify your symptoms. Do not be afraid of them. You have got to learn to go deeper into the acceptance piece that Claire Weeks talks about as you are letting time pass. Because when anxiety arises, you want to be able to acknowledge it without fighting it or pushing it away. That is our acceptance. We are not going to fight with it. You could say to yourself, I feel anxious right now, and that's okay. Because it is okay. It's a normal response, and you are okay. You can observe it without judgment. Notice the symptoms without labeling them as good or bad. Bring it back to neutral. Practice saying, this is just a feeling. It will pass. Because so often we assign so much of a story to each little feeling, and we think that it is there forever. If we've got this feeling, I'm going to feel like this forever. Not true. It is just a feeling. We can let go of the story about it by not going into judgment of good or bad with it. Go to neutral and remind yourself, it will pass. I want you to focus on the present moment and observe your anxiety without letting it control you. Because it's going to keep coming up. Letting time pass is a process. Use the mindfulness techniques that you have learned and your breathing or guided meditations to help you stay centered and keep yourself grounded. Stay in the moment. That's mindfulness. We want to be sure that we are being patient and persistent. We want to remember that immediate relief is not possible with anxiety, so set realistic expectations. Understand that recovery from anxiety takes time. Let the time pass. Remind yourself daily that healing is a gradual process and that immediate relief is not realistic. Just remind yourself of that. Write it down somewhere. Put it in your journal. Write it in your journal every day so that you can remember. Immediate relief is not realistic. This is a healing process. It is gradual, but you will get there. And you get there through consistent effort. So practice daily. Consistently apply the principles of acceptance and understanding. Set aside some time each day to practice acceptance. Practice whatever's going on in your life and accepting it. Again, it doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you approve of it. It means that you accept what is. Everything else is living with resistance, and it's living in a future place where that is not going on, or a past place where that is not going on. And that is mindless. We want to bring ourselves into that present moment and remind ourselves we are accepting this moment and be at ease with it, just a little bit. Keep the self-compassion alive. Many times when we are exhausted from being anxious, maybe we have a lot of physical stuff that goes on with that, or maybe our mind is just like a wild place and we are beating ourselves up, like, why can't I be calmer? Why can't I be happier? Be kind to yourself, please. Treat yourself with kindness and patience as you work through your anxiety and are letting time pass. This piece is hard because, again, you are tired. You have spent a lot of time in anxiety. You don't want to hear me say, you got to be here a little bit longer, but you do. We've got to be here and gradually ease our way out of it. It's not a race. Use the self-compassion exercises that we have talked about here on many other episodes. Use things such as writing yourself a kind letter, or engage in any of your favorite self-care activities. Give yourself a break. And speaking of breaks, break the cycle of fear. Recognize when fear of symptoms is causing you more anxiety. This is what I call the long tail. This is the piece that is really long-lasting for some people that I have worked with. They are no longer in fear of many, many things that they had been living with, whether they were external or their own internal processes. They are like, oh my gosh, I've made so many changes. I'm great. I don't have fears. But they may have still the fear of the cycle of anxiety, the fear of the fear that anxiety will arise once again when they are least expecting it. And that can keep the cycle going. Just when you think you're out of it, you'll go into this, oh, but what if it comes up again? Or what if it comes up when I go here, or when I am doing XYZ? That is a tough one, but that too will go as you let time pass. That's one of the last ones to go. So be patient with yourself. Keep a log of your anxiety times, your episodes, and note any patterns of fear feeding into the anxiety. See if you can notice, because when we can see this with our own two eyes in a journal, we are able to look at it differently than it just spinning around on the hamster wheel in our mind. And we want to disrupt the pattern. Face the symptoms. Face the sensations. Allow yourself to experience them without adding fear. When you do feel anxious, remind yourself, I can handle this. It's uncomfortable but not dangerous. Discomfort doesn't mean danger. Check in always to make sure you're safe and sound, which you usually are. You are just uncomfortable, and that is not dangerous. Please remind yourself of that. Write it down, carry it around in a sticky note, however you need to remember. Because through all of this, with time passing, you are going to build your confidence. You're going to gain experience by facing your anxiety, and you're going to see you are able to handle it. When you do it over and over, you will see, I can handle this. So I want you to reflect on past experiences where you managed your anxiety successfully, and this will reinforce your confidence. Remember, gradual exposure will help you find your way out. You will desensitize your nervous system. So see if there are places you can go, or driving that you can do, or people you can be with, and gradually work your way up and out of the anxiety-inducing situations. You will be facing your triggers as you're letting time pass. And that's great. This is how we get out, continuously exposing yourself to triggers without reacting with fear. So practice regularly. If going to the grocery store was a trigger for you, practice. Go to the grocery store. Maybe you don't go in the first time. Find your way to begin to expose yourself to these things that have been bothering you, because gradually, as you spend time in these situations and you remember that you are safe and discomfort does not equal danger, you will begin to crawl your way out of the wormhole. Remember, it's a gradual process. It takes constant practice, but set small, achievable goals for those little exposures and celebrate each time you do one. I want you to be sure to trust the process. Part of healing from anxiety and panic is believing, having faith that with time and practice that recovery will happen. So here I want you to use positive affirmations such as, I trust the process and I know that I am healing. Reassure yourself that your body and mind do have the capacity to heal. Write down reassuring statements and read them every day. Track your progress. I love this. In a journal, pay attention to your small improvements. Write them down so you can have a place to reflect on these and reinforce your commitment and your recovery. By following these steps and by learning more about how you can apply Claire Weeks' method to manage and overcome anxiety, by allowing time for your body and mind to heal naturally, you will find yourself in a much more peaceful life. I hope this show was helpful for you, and I look forward to being with you before too long. And now for today's quote. It takes time for a body to establish acceptance and for this to bring peace, just as it takes time for fear to be established as continuous tension and anxiety. This is why letting time pass, the last of my 4 concepts, is so important in treatment. And that's from Dr. Claire Weeks. I'll be back in a few more days with another podcast. Until then, be well and aloha.